Magoni's a goal scorer. What about Dante? Dante's his own breed.
Give me 2 seconds, Eichel and Svetch, and I'll be coming at your neck. Richard Zednick, laugh past the breadstick, Artemi will bury. Send him on his merry way, lest it's don't carry. What's sadder than KK's broken spleen? Leafs fan with hopes and dreams. Rink Moose is back for season 3 with hot takes like you wouldn't believe.
I'll block shots. I rescind that. You've never blocked a shot for me.
Now let's turn it over to the host of the show. His character's high, but his skill level's low. Kid back checks like you don't even know. Championship flow, Jonathan Quick is a schmo. Yeah.
Oh, hello there.
Tis the season. Last year was like treason. Stanley Cup, more like a COVID Cup. The year of Cooper was more a big blooper, like Ferris Bueller in a brand new cruiser. Oh, hail, hail! Now my car is a star, moves like a sports car. He can sauce like a Boston crisscross like Art Ross. He's peanut butter smooth like Quinn Hughes, and a work of art like that upstart Carter Hart. That's good kokanee right there. So in comes Keith. Will the boys be Leaf? Can Jumbo Joe and Nonsense Mo avoid another repeat? It's time to start the show, so turn up the stereo. Put your feet up, relax, enjoy a Bud Light Jack. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 6 of the Rinkamoose Hockey Podcast. An episodic podcast where two good pals get together and discuss all things NHL and their implications in the fantasy hockey universe. I am one of your hosts, as always, Nick Costu, along with my pal Kyle Nice. Kyle, how are you doing watching the Ottawa and Montreal game right now?
I'm doing just great. Montreal just scored. And let Joe hear this from me first. This is the official start of the Montreal Canadiens run of wins. It starts right now.
Wow. Well, we'll get into that shortly on our lead. But without further ado, occupying the rotating third chair this week, first time back in a couple months, the one they call the freezer tarp.
Oh,
Josh Schechter. Josh, how are you doing on this fine evening?
What's good, fellas? Thanks for having me back. I'm doing well. Thanks. Let's get into it.
How is the fantasy season treating you so far? Have to ask.
I can only sum it up as bad luck.
you little shit. You are a shit.
My plan is being executed perfectly. I'm winning every week in the categories that I have targeted. Shots, hits. I lead the league in both. I lead the league in 3 of the 4 goalie stats. And I've been foiled 2 weeks in a row by solid goaltending. Unbelievable goaltending. Last week, let me look at this. I was rudely overtaken by a goalie performance of Chris Driedger.
Darren Drieger.
No.
And Brian Elliott combining for 3 wins and a 1.5 goals against.
Nice.
Like, what am I supposed to do?
What a tandem that is.
Vasilevsky had 3 wins and 2 shutouts and couldn't put it together.
Wow. Well, and that's the, like, I don't really follow your team very much. I just know your goalies. That's really all I know about your team. And if there's one thing I just want to ask you on the subject is what's happening in Boston? Because, like, both those goalies aren't, like, when I look at their, like, stats, they aren't, like, particularly, like, awe-inspiring, you know? Like, what's happening in Boston?
Well, I think that's the real question, is what is happening in Boston? They're supposed to be this defensively sound team that, shuts down the opponent's best line and puts everything they have to their production line, and nothing's going right now. Letting the Islanders put up, 7 goals?
The Rangers.
Oh.
The
Oh
Islanders
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Islanders put up 7. Rangers put up
Right.
6.
Back-to-back nights.
It's unheard of.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Like when I just looked at your team, that's the one thing that just caught my eye. I'm like, Rask is ranked 250, Halak's ranked 150. I'm like, how are one of these guys not in the top 100? You know, when you got
Well, it's,
Darren Drieger putting up shutouts.
Well, that's the thing. It's so random because you look at what Robin Leonard in Vegas. That could have been a disaster of a story if Nick, that was Nick's only Vegas goalie. You know, like Nick could be on his knees right now begging for mercy if that was his main goalie. You know, so it's like they're so unpredictable. Like that's why it's so hard to pick them so early.
If there's been any correlation between like my season, like its trajectory, the day Leonard got injured is the day my team started being on the upswing. Like that's defined my team, because then I was able to just have 3 goalies instead of 4. And you cannot manage a team with 4 goalies. I realize that, Josh. I don't know what you're doing. Does not work.
With 4,
You won't catch up to any scoring stats with anyone if you have 4 goalies every week. It's just inconceivable.
Look at my shots on goal and look at my hits. That's all that I care about. I lead the league in both those statistics every week. Mm-hmm. And if I win 3 out of the 4 goalie stats, I win every week. Shout out
so
to
you're playing to win 5 or 6 stats. You're not playing to sweep guys.
No, I'm not playing.
You don't want to crush anyone.
Goals are a byproduct of shots. My team also has the lowest shooting percentage in the league. So, I mean, positive regression will happen. But, so yeah, I'm going after 2.5 offensive stats and all 4 goalie stats. That's essentially what my strategy
in a regular season, it sounds odd, but I guess in the playoffs, when you only need to win, I guess that rationale makes sense.
Exactly. The only downside, it's the biggest downside to this, is that I'm pretty much stuck with the team I have, because half the guys on my roster, no one else would find any value, and in the other half, I value too much to give away. So
right. Not to mention, you according to Kyle, you can't. It's impossible to make a trade in this league with the Muppets.
Oh,
we're up
it's
against.
Brutal. So. It's absolutely brutal. I don't know if you guys
have
ever
do it pre-draft.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
you got to.
I don't know if you guys have ever
to get Ovechkin.
Yeah, and he's terrible. So I don't know.
But he's also missed 4 games because of his debauchery. But 17 points in 20 games isn't too bad.
The moops in our fucking league are just the worst. Because you send them a trade and they simply leave you on red. They do the equivalent of R-bombing you. They don't decline. They don't accept. They just fucking leave it there until you take it off yourself. Until you get the picture. Like, it's just brutal. What is wrong with these people, man? I don't get it. If you guys are listening, then shape up here.
I find the success happens when you message them as a discussion instead of just setting an offer, because you never. Well,
they don't like that either. I've tried that in the past. Maybe I'm just not a good tradesman. Maybe I'm not, because I don't know.
Maybe your GM rep is too low. Maybe you built a reputation. I mean, Josh is a fresh face. He has no reputation. People want to deal with him. You've been mucking people up for 4 years now.
What's the history of this? I'm unaware.
Well, just too many like raw offers, you know. Like if you consider people like to be idiots and you offer them shitty trades, then they don't like you anymore, you know. So maybe I've done one too many of those, like tire kicking trades, you know. But I don't know. I don't know if people remember that kind of stuff.
You're too spontaneous. Like you don't enter a negotiation with someone. You throw a deal at their face without even mentioning it. That's not going to win you any friends either.
Well, come on. I don't want to get into it.
You can't just do that. You can't just here's Suzuki for Lafreniere. You can't just do that.
You know why? It's because I'm not a liar. If I explain my position, then they'll be like, "Oh, well, then you're getting the better deal." And I don't like to conjure stories.
Right.
So maybe that's what I've got to work on, is conjuring illegal stories.
I think it's your approach. I think you just literally have to go in and say, I want this player. Who do you like on my team? If it's a non-starter, then you move on to the next team. But most people will respond, even if it's their top guy. Everyone has a price tag.
Right. Well, I'll give it a shot. How about that?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give it a shot with one of you fellas later.
Just not for Suzuki.
Hey, if you want Ben Sherratt, be my guest.
Pass.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's move to the lead here. I know Kyle's been antsy to talk about this for a full calendar week now. And I'll start with a report from The Athletic just to get everyone back up to speed. Okay. On Groundhog Day, the Habs beat the Canucks, ending a 2-week stretch that saw them face Vancouver 5 times and take 9 of 10 points, all while scoring at will. That ran their overall record to 7-1-2, and they were all but anointed the division's best team. Marc Bergevin's moves had all worked perfectly, and the relatively small number of skeptics had been proven wrong. 2 nights after that win over the hapless Canucks, the Habs lost to the Senators. No big deal. It was a trap game against a bad team, and they got their revenge in a rematch. But then came a loss to the Maple Leafs, and then another to the Oilers, and soon they'd lost 7 of 8, including 5 straight. Last week, they fired coach Claude Julien, a move that would have seemed unthinkable just 2 short weeks ago. Kyle, what do you make of this synopsis I just read summarizing the last 2 weeks in Montreal land?
Well, the synopsis outlines one of the major issues in Montreal land, which is the battle of extremes. You're either hot as frig or you're low as frig. And I think that's what inevitably pushed Bergevin over the edge. He quoted that he was seeing a lot of those 8-game losing streak looks on this team this year. And while a lot of people will point to the 5-on-5 play that's been spectacular by the Habs, I mean, some of this has got to be on the coach for a lack of consistent effort night in, night out. They're not as good as maybe those who thought they were a number one team early on. I still think they are, but they're not as bad as this skid they've been on. So I think it was time for Julien. I think the message just kind of wore thin. And he's been there a while, like he hasn't had the success over 5 or 6 years. So I'm on board with the move. I'm ready to dive into it, whether it was an earned firing or not. But I think this is all good for the Habs long term.
Josh, I'll ask for your perspective. But first, this photo of Carey Price and who? Who is this? Who is this?
I just sent in a face swap of Carey Price and Brady Tkachuk because
that's Tkachuk.
Man, does that make an ugly baby?
Oh God,
mutant!
Oh my God!
Wow, that's funny.
Where did this go? That's not really. That's crazy.
It's Carey Price's mouth, and the rest is all Brady.
Oh God, he looks like an alien.
So Josh, were you in the pool of people who were stunned like me, or were you like the writing was on the wall, this was set in stone here?
I was pretty stunned, to be honest. I thought, if you looked at their numbers, they weren't operating as if they were a bad team. I think they had a lot of bad puck luck. And, if who knows if that goal against Ottawa gets let in instead of called back, what the fortunes would say. But, I was surprised. I don't think Montreal is a contender for the Cup, but I definitely thought they would be a contender for the playoffs.
Yeah,
you don't think so anymore, Josh? You don't think they're a contender anymore?
With the way that Carey Price has been playing, I can't put them above some of the other teams in the North Division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and after seeing this photo, I just can't.
I mean, count me with you, where I was stunned as well. Just because, like that report said, in 2 short weeks, how can you make an evaluation like that? Such a decision with just 2 weeks of play. And to your point, I think he was more a victim of the goaltending, a short window of poor goaltending, than an overall team play. But I don't know. It sounds like the philosophy Bergevin wants is a little different. Like Bergevin wants more of a new school coach, a guy like Keefe that can load up on two lines, play the two top lines more than the bottom two, kind of like the Leafs. Have your Marners and your Matthews line and play them more. Play forwards 20 minutes a night. I think Montreal is the only team in the league that hadn't deployed forwards for over 18 minutes a game, which I think that speaks volumes. So I think he's looking this Ducharme guy. He's a little more of a modern thinker, and I think they're going for kind of what happened in Toronto last year. They're going with the Keefe Babcock kind of replacement here, and I think you might see more ice time out of the big boys. But the Suzuki line and that Tatar and Gallagher line. But again, it's not the Leafs team. I think this team's better equipped to play a 4-line game. That philosophy doesn't really click with this team, and so that has me thinking, well, what can this move do? Like what difference can it make?
I was listening to an interview with Eric Engels, who's a Montreal sports reporter, and he was talking about how he was already on the hot seat before the NHL returned to play, because they were sitting in 24th place, and had it been a normal year, they would have missed the playoffs by a landslide. So they were fortunate to have that's like partial Cinderella run, winning the first series, and that apparently secured him a little bit of a leash to start the season and not get canned coming into this year. But I was still surprised given the start they had, and the difficulties they had to overcome with injuries and trades, and all the players they brought in with such limited training camp. I was impressed, but it clearly his voice was being lost in the dressing room. His message wasn't being received anymore, and a change definitely now it seems like it's warranted.
Yeah, I just because I was kind of reviewing the regime that he's had over this time in Montreal, and I will make the statement of one of the biggest casualties of the Julien regime has been the death of team creativity for the Montreal Canadiens. Like, I think he kind of adopted this value, this identity, as Nick said, we're a 4-line team. The only way we can score goals is those gritty goals. So I'm going to structure my whole kind of team philosophy on that. And that's where you see your best players getting 16 minutes of ice time. I think that it, as a Montreal fan, it just kind of drove me up the wall to see, even when your players are clicking, even when you've got your good guys rolling hot, like, you got to play your guys more. Like, I don't need to see the fourth line this much. And we can score goals in other ways. I know a lot of people say they don't have a lot of top end skill, and maybe that's true, but they've got a fair amount of skill on there to be able to score some goals in some creative ways. So one of the highlights I wanted to point out was Jonathan Drouin, ever since Ducharme came back, has been a completely different player. If you've watched any of these Montreal games since Ducharme took over, like, he's actually trying plays now. He's putting more shots on the net. Like, it just seems like Julien had really handcuffed and put a leash on this guy. And I hope a lot of other players kind of wake up in that sense as well, because, I mean, I just think that there's more opportunities here for guys to really break out. But I want to start seeing that 19 minutes for guys, like, even if it's a Gallagher, start playing him. It's no time to be conservative here.
Now, what you just said reminds me of another coach who was fired not too long ago, maybe a couple seasons, in another large hockey market. Mike Babcock. He was getting flack for not playing the top guys enough, and it ultimately led to his demise, along with several other factors. But that was definitely a storyline in Leafs land for a while, about how Austin Matthews and John Tavares and Mitch Marner weren't getting the 18, 19, 20 minutes a game, and they were playing that fourth line with non-factors, non-contributors. So maybe that is a shift in the culture where they're issuing out these older school coaches in favor of a fresher and new approach.
I really hope so, but we should mention the pressure in Montreal right now is like higher than any team in this league. It's actually it's getting to a real fever pitch, because now Bergevin's job is sorely on the line now. If Ducharme doesn't put something together here, then it's going to look really, really, really bad on the general manager, who we've all said has done a really good job. But it really wouldn't matter if things go south here. He's going to be ended up kind of being the guy to blame, because this is his guy. Like Ducharme and Bergevin, they are tied together like Keefe and like Kyle Dubas. So, I mean, if anything, that to me could bring a little bit of hesitancy for this change. Like maybe there's just so much pressure that he just feels a little bit scared to try these new things, and he just wants to kind of play it safe. So that's what I'm worried about when it comes to Ducharme. I'm also kind of worried about whether he's got the runway, the room, and the time, the days off to really implement a new system. Like there's not a lot of practice time here. He's doing the best he can by trying to talk to each individual player, but it's not a lot that you can do in the middle of the season under this much pressure. I mean, it's a tough job. It's gonna be hard, and that's why there's so much resting on Price. And yeah, there's a lot of storylines floating around here.
Yeah, you know me, I'm a Claude fan. I had him as one of my coaches on Team Canada in 2022. That take has not aged well, but nonetheless, I mean, I still like the guy, and it's a shame to see him go. But this Ducharme guy, based on what I've heard from the Ferraros and the Millers who know him through the World Juniors, say very intense guy. Like he comes off as a really, kind guy, charming guy, in public and interviews and stuff, but very intense, very knowledgeable. So I predict he's going to right the ship. I think Carey Price will get his game back. It sounds like he's working with the goalie coach there pretty hard. And hey, I give him my full endorsement.
Ottawa just scored on Price, by the way. So let's see where that leads. I don't know if Josh knows this. I know Nick knows this, but Dominic Ducharme was the coach of the greatest junior team of the last decade. Do you know what I'm talking about, Josh?
You're talking about the Halifax Mooseheads?
Yes, the greatest junior team of the last decade.
I think you're mistaken, because the greatest team of the last decade resides in London, Ontario.
I knew you were going there. That's ridiculous, and you know it. That McKinnon-Drouin duo of 2013 will never be touched. It hasn't been touched since, and it's just pure hockey lore, that team. So this guy's there. We got Drouin on board. Get the phone ringing for Nathan McKinnon to come to Montreal immediately.
All right. Is that it for the Habs? Any last anything else, Dad?
It's not it for the Habs.
Okay.
Did I mention this guy, Jonathan Drouin?
Right.
Who is, and I don't know, I know I dropped him in fantasy, but if you look at his underlying numbers, his point per game.
You already
basis,
dropped him.
Yes, I dropped him.
So you vehemently picked him up on Saturday night or the Thursday night. You're like, he's back, and you already dropped him.
Yes, I did. Okay.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Where's your loyalty?
I know, but I know no one else is going to pick him up. That's why.
Okay.
His numbers on a minutes, like a points per 60 minutes basis, is actually right up there with some of the top guys. Get ready for an explosion. Fantasy hockey news. Tips and tricks.
But
Pick
you're
up
saying
Jonathan Drouin.
he just got injured.
No, he came back. He's
Okay.
getting roughed up a little bit, but he came back.
And who? See, we haven't even mentioned this. Josh Anderson's injured, right?
Yes.
So who's he
Josh.
playing with? Who's he playing with that Montreal has lost their most productive player? Like
Suzuki and Toffoli.
Like last week, I think I read a stat like 40% of the goals they've scored have been from Toffoli and what's his face? Anderson. And now they've lost Anderson, who I think is more valuable than Toffoli. So what are they going to do?
Agree.
What are they going to do, and who's Drouin going to play with, and is it going to work?
Well, I'll tell you that this Suzuki thing isn't looking so good. I'll 100% honest. Jonathan Drouin is making plays like left, right, and center, you wouldn't even believe. But Suzuki, like, pucks are dying on his stick. I don't know what's wrong with this guy, but he's going through a sophomore slump or something. But pucks are just dying on his stick. But, the offense is there for other guys. It's just that duo that we all wanted to click and that clicked in the playoffs, that needs to get going if they are to have any hope, because that is your skill line. If your skill line isn't going, then you can't rely on the Gallagher goals, forever. So that's got to change. It's all on Suzuki right now because Drouin is distributing as good as he ever has.
And the other stat I read is apparently it's now been a full calendar year since Phil Deneau's last goal.
Oh my God, yeah, that's
so like
crazy.
I'm only mentioning bad things here. Like I don't watch this team. I don't like watching them. They don't interest me. But I'm just reading these stats to you that I just come upon, and none of it's good. Like there's no positive.
At least you regress in the right direction.
Jake Allen's the only positive.
Which is wild.
And
I know.
That can turn around at any second, as we know, as I would know of everybody.
Yeah. Well,
so convince me. Like, give your sales pitch. Endorse people out there why this team should be a playoff team. Because the way it looks right now, Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, and them, they're going to fight over 2-5, and one of them's not making it.
Okay, why this team is a playoff team? Because obviously you have to have if your number one goalie's going, he's one of the best in the division. Like that's an obvious one. That's an easy one. The defense is tough, a little bit immobile, but they're relatively smart. So that's what they've got to work on with Sherratt and Weber. Like you got to limit those minutes for those guys because they don't move so well. But if you look at the forwards, if you have Nick Suzuki playing like Nick Suzuki played in the playoffs and early in the season, then you've got a great first line of a distributor, an all-around player, and one of the league's top power forwards. The Gallagher line speaks for itself. Tatar, Gallagher, Deneau. Yes, Deneau doesn't score much these days, but if he's playing his best hockey, then he's going to be defending very well, almost at a Selke level. So those two lines can kind of speak for themselves. And then you've got your lower lines of Jake Evans, Yoel Armia and company. And then Kotkaniemi coming up to Foley, kind of rounding out that bottom half there. It's just, you do need that top line to get into gear, but if you don't have that, you still have a lot of balance, and hopefully a little bit more offensive flair with Ducharme. But yes, no, the way it's structured, the way it's structured, you have to have your goalie running hot. If your goalie is not running hot, you have to change a lot of things on the fly, and it just causes a little bit of chaos and mayhem, in my opinion.
Have you considered the fact that,
go ahead.
Maybe this can be the last point, but have you guys considered the fact that Carey Price this year has been given the most help he's ever gotten in terms of nights off in a while? Maybe he operates better when he's the guy, and when he's not sharing the crease with anyone, he can just, he can play a back-to-back, and he doesn't have to worry about getting his crease taken by someone else.
You know what, Josh? It's a really interesting point. And if I, based on my history of knowledge, were to guess the ideal psychological scenario for Carey Price, it's on an underdog team where he is like the backbone of that team. Like when I think back to his playoff days against Boston and these teams, I remember what made his legacy so great was the team was terrible. They were getting shelled, and he was their last hope, and he was just standing on his head. I think he relishes that role. And then you've always heard stories about, Price has covered up so many blemishes because he succeeds when he is the guy, like you said, and when the team gives up a lot of shots. So I think psychologically, for him to be on a team that's considered this team should be good, and Price should be good as well, maybe he doesn't operate so well in that space. It's a good point.
I will mention one last thing. Should have mentioned this earlier when I led with Julien. But did you guys hear about the Dale Weiss comments?
Yeah, I think I brushed up on those, but you're gonna have to remind me.
So let me remind you. This is courtesy of Kyle's friends at Bar Down. Dale Weiss doesn't seem to be losing any sleep over the firing of Claude Julien. The former went on quite the Twitter spree following the news, making it clear that he didn't enjoy his time playing for him and that he was prone to making a mistake or two behind the bench each game, one of which, according to Weiss, was taking too many men penalties, and he didn't hold back about it online. First, he just blatantly called the guy out. Quote, willing to bet there won't be as many too many men penalties, end quote. Then things got a little more interesting. After Bruins reporter challenged Weiss, the latter doubled down on his original comment and even went as far as insinuating there was mayhem on the bench when it came to Julien choosing his lines. Ha ha ha, the guy never called what line was up there, was never any idea who was going and who wasn't. It was mayhem. So yeah, there's his 2 cents on the Julien firing. Sounds like that house league coach, that dad who just didn't know what was going on, and he'd be just stunned every game. Am I right, Kyle?
Yeah.
The senile old man coaching the house league team.
Oh my God. I remember some of those days when it was like that. It was mayhem. No one knew who they were going. So you all look at the coach, and then he grabs one guy's jersey and he just throws him on the ice. I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, that's when you know the team's desperate.
You want to know my take on those couple of quotes? Really, really gutless play by Weiss there. Really gutless. Kicking a guy when he's down. That is just not cool in my opinion. Like, he just got fired. Obviously, he's going to be on the prospective job market, as they say. And this guy is just calling him out on this, like, honestly, half-ass criticism. Like, this is kind of lame on Weiss here.
Where is Dale Weiss now, anyways?
I could not tell you. Could not tell you. I got to think he's not in the league right now. Otherwise, don't just comment on another coach, if you're in the league.
Yeah. No,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, unrestricted free agent, so just no one wants his services. So there you have it. Sounds like a guy who's just sour. He's not in the league anymore, and he's trying to get some kind of attention. Although I don't think this is the attention you want if you're trying to make it back into the league. So
No.
Maybe he knows he's done, and this is kind of his last little hurrah. I don't know.
He's probably sniffing around Europe.
Yeah, who knows?
I want to see his face matched with Brady Kachuk. I think that would be
my God.
Right.
That would be the thing that should never have come back to life.
All right. Well, speaking of Europe, that leads us to topic number 2. The news story that was originally in the lead until the Julien firing came up. And that was Artemi Panarin making the news. The bread man.
Yes.
News coming out of good old Russia.
We love Russia.
We love Russia on this show. Plenty of listeners from Russia. Panarin's former Continental Hockey League coach, Andrei Nazarov, told a Russian tabloid Komsomolskoye Yaya. Sorry, I totally butchered that. I don't even know what I'm reading right now.
What's wrong with you?
That the player had attacked an 18-year-old woman in Latvia in 2011. Nazarov claimed Panarin, a finalist in the National Hockey League's NHL Most Valuable Player Award last season, knocked the woman to the floor with, quote, several powerful blows.
What?
This is not a laughing matter, Kyle.
No, it just sounds so ridiculous.
Panarin denies the allegations, which some have suggested are linked to his public support for Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny and his spoken criticism of the government under Vladimir Putin. Nazarov has praised Panarin, who has played in the NHL since 2015, for his beliefs towards Putin. In a statement, the Rangers dismissed the report as a fabricated story, while skepticism over the allegations appear to have grown in Russia. Latvian police have said they have no knowledge of the event, and it remains unclear if Panarin, who leads the Rangers with 18 points, will return this season. The situation could also affect Panarin's participation at the 2022 Olympic Games, and since then, the Rangers have issued some quotes saying this is clearly an intimidation tactic being used against him for being outspoken of recent political events. Artemi is obviously shaken and concerned and will take some time away from the team. The Rangers fully support Artemi and will work with him to identify the source of these unfounded allegations. So that's a lot. That's a lot there. That's politics.
Wow.
That's sports. That's a good chunk of info there. A rare story, but an important story nonetheless. So let's start with you here, Josh. What did you make of this when you just heard about this?
No, I'm going to try and be very careful about what I say and how I say it for fear of retaliation from the Kremlin. But I think this is just, this is just bullshit. Like, allegations from 2011. Are there even a statute of limitations in Russia? Like, this is just an attempt to smear his name because of his political views. And the New York Rangers have issued a statement pretty much saying the exact same thing in more words and more eloquently than I did. But it's ridiculous and unfortunate that he has to go through this in a season where he was producing and they really need him.
Yeah, I mean, I was most surprised with just like, I'm not saying the Rangers handled this the wrong way. Like, it's okay, you're endorsing him, fine. But wouldn't it, like, if you have three things you can do here? You can endorse him, you can defame him even more, or you can just say, be neutral. Just say we're going to wait till the investigation's done and then we'll talk, or we'll handle the situation then. I'm surprised they didn't go with option number 3. Like, I just feel like endorsing the guy, it's a very bold move. Like, it just politically, I feel like the right move would just be, like, the safest move's just listen, like, we hear there's shit out there, we will not comment, let's wait to hear what the investigation says. But I guess when this is one of the prized possessions of the league, a face of the league, they don't really have a choice. So that's kind of what the impression I got.
Yeah, when you invest $81.5 million into a player, you kind of have to have their back regardless of the situation.
Mm-hmm. So since we're all journalists here, I might as well kind of drop another quote on you guys that maybe you haven't heard of. Well, it's been kind of a little bit more buried, but I'm just adding all the info that I've found, because everything Nick said I know is true, and I have that as well. But here's a little thing that I found a little extra. New York Post article. Quote, another teammate, Mikhail Ansin, told Russian outlet Sports Express on Wednesday that there was an incident in Riga, Latvia. So this guy, Anshin, is a teammate of Panarin. Back to the quote. In 2011, involving Panarin, but it did not play out the way Nazarov depicted. Quote inside a quote. Artemi didn't beat anyone. Maybe pushed one girl a little bit. Nothing more. Anshin told Sports Express. So, I mean, now we have to ask ourselves if this was just some fabricated story out of thin air, then why did Panarin have the necessity to run back to Russia and kind of drop his role here? So I know he didn't beat anyone. I know he didn't do anything as major as the allegations are saying, but it does sound like he is kind of worried about a little bit of something there. And maybe that's just kind of checking in on his family and making sure that's all squared away. But I mean, you got to think he's got people for that too, with the money that he makes. So I don't know. I'm willing to leave the door open just a crack as to say maybe there's something on the other side of this that's being blown up. But I mean, he did leave in a hurry, and he didn't even make a real statement. The Rangers made it for him. So the real question is, how long is this going to take? And it's a weird one. It is a weird one. But what do you guys make of that little quote there?
Well, I think anything from the New York Post needs to have an asterisk next to it anyways. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Kyle, but it's widely regarded as one of the most hyperbole news organizations out there. Like, they are essentially a tabloid newspaper. I mean, I don't know if anything they say can be taken at face value. Everything needs to be checked with not only a grain of salt, but I'd say probably the whole Himalayan mountain range. But
I see. Yeah.
And from the quote, just a translation error where pushing her around a little bit could have been anything in Russian.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, you got to be very careful with any news coming out of there. And that's why I just like to lean on the side of wait till it you know, and when you wait till you hear anything credible. But my opinion is, like, he will take care of this. Whatever happened, it will get. He has so many powerful friends. It will get, this will all go away. We won't think about this a year from now. I'm sure he will be just fine. I'm sure he will play at the Olympics. It's just a dark chapter he's got to deal with right now. And unfortunately, it's kind of intermingled with Russia and politics and all that jazz. So it's not a good look right now, but I don't think it's going to end up being anything, material that's going to really hurt him.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. Does him leaving so suddenly and, without word of when he's going to come back, doesn't that throw more fuel on the fire? Like, doesn't that give the story more spotlight in a way? Like, if it were me and I know I like everything, I know I didn't, if someone's just spreading rumors about me, I would pay it very, very little attention at all, Like, why does he have to run back to Russia?
No, it's more than that, Kyle. Like, it's his family. His whole family's there. He's got to go there. He's got to make sure the kids are safe. There's not an assassin, after his family. Like, he's got to look after them. He's got to get them out of there.
Why are they still over there? Yeah, then that's my. If you're gonna be so like,
you're very loyal. Those people, they're very loyal. A lot of the Russian players, their families are all back home.
Well, Nick, Nick, he must know that if he's taking a hard stance against Putin, which he has, and he knows the history of what can happen when you do that, then you must have some pieces in place to protect your family or move them to somewhere safe or something like this. Like something just doesn't add up here. Like, I feel like he may have, I don't know. It just doesn't add up. I think he should have had a bit more foresight in this case.
You think he should have had a contingency plan if this was something?
Of course. He's been at the forefront of anti-Putin Russian hockey player, drama. Now, some guys have supported him, but they're not like on the forefront like he is. And he must have had some sort of plan in place. And if not, like, maybe that's on him or his agent, but it's just not a good move for him.
I think it just blindsided him because we're talking about a report from 2011. That's a decade ago.
So why would it be getting so much credibility? Like, just ignore it. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Unless there's been like someone who's now come forward and is starting to make a big fuss about something.
No, you're right. It's a good point. It's a valid point. And it goes to show there's more to this than just what we're reading in these reports. And it's clearly serious to take their best player away from the team for what's probably going to be a while. Like, we were talking about this, like quarantining. Like, he's at least 3 weeks. Get there, come back here. It's gonna be a while, and that's why we were excited about Lafreniere and his opportunity. We'll get to that. But
that's why it's so weird, and especially because he's a leader on this team who really needs his help right now. He could be an MVP candidate for all they know. For him to take this leave of absence, it's major story. Like, this is huge news. Like, he's making a big leave for this team. This is crazy. This should be getting more play, in my opinion.
Well, I think we just got to let it sit and just react as news comes out in the next few weeks, because we can only speculate, and we just have to wait to hear what comes out next. But for now, I'm pretty pleased. Yeah.
I got one more question for you guys.
Yeah.
What is a more volatile environment? Inside of or the Russian locker room in the 2022 Olympics? You've got guys like Panarin going through and then you've got guys like Ovechkin, who's an outward Putin supporter. How are they going to get along? How are they going to get along in that dress? Like, this is just going to be mayhem, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that room. They're going to be fucking terrible. I'm calling it here. They're going to be terrible.
They'll all be on the Russian gas, so it won't matter. Russian gas takes care of everything.
I guess so.
It's true that room is going to be a little fucked. And I had that same thought too. I thought about Ovechkin, and it's no coincidence he plays in the nation's capital. He's almost Putin's employee. settled there and to hear the whispers that are happening around Washington.
Exactly.
And then like the second best Russian player in the league is a big advocate of the anti-Putin movement. So it's fascinating, and that's a good point. The team already looked bad on paper, like, defensively and whatnot, bottom 6. But yeah, I didn't even consider that character-wise. I mean, I'm not very optimistic about this group.
A curveball Nazarov is the head coach of the team.
Nazarov? Oh yeah, that'd be good.
No, I'm kidding. They wouldn't do that, I don't think. Or they would. Who knows?
That would be funny. Holy shit. Dylan Cousins is fighting.
No way. Who's he fighting?
Lindgren on New York. Good tilt. Really
Honestly,
good tilt. Really
great
good
character
tilt.
move. Great character move by Cousins.
So I did see Will's brother the other day. Apparently, I got more details about this fight in Kingston.
Yeah.
So apparently this Cousins guy, he was getting beat so bad. His like only recourse was when he finally got the guy down, this kid he was beating up, he started like pulling his hair. And that was his move. Pulling the kid's hair out.
I'm not buying that.
That was his move. He got his ass kicked, and when things got desperate, he went to the hair pull.
I am not buying that.
Well, that's from that's just what I heard 2 days ago. So here's your update.
That's ridiculous.
Alrighty, moving on. By the way, Josh, this was like a homecoming story where apparently Cousins was sighted here at Queens Hoco, and he got into a tilt with one of my friends' friends.
He's a long way away from Yukon, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't particularly. I guess. Okay, let's go here because I'm watching this this Sabres game. I just read an Athletic article today. It was the top 25 guys to be traded, or the billboard, so to speak. And occupying number 2 on this list, none other than Jack Eichel. So I'd like to open this can of worms, Kyle. How did we go from this being Jack's team, Bud Light Jack, savior of Buffalo, to what is now an impending trade by the sounds of what you hear from some sources?
Well, fuck, where do you start? Where do you start with this team? The Phantom of Buffalo. That's what I'm going to call Jack Eichel, the Phantom of Buffalo.
Wow.
I mean, what do you say about that? Like, remember what we said before the year started? Oh, this is going to be such a fun team. Look at the pieces they have in place. Like, Buffalo may not make the playoffs, but at least fans will get their due kind of enjoyment. And it hasn't happened. Like if you look at this team, they're so bloody boring to watch. They play such low event hockey. It's actually unfathomable how shitty they are. You had Taylor Hall come in simply to do one thing: put up points next to Eichel, maybe get a bit more dollars on the contract next time he signs, whether that's in Buffalo or elsewhere, whatever. That didn't work. You got Eric Stahl coming in. The guy looks like a fucking dinosaur. That hasn't worked. You have Dahlin with a slow start. Your goalies aren't making saves. Sam Reinhart's been your best player. Like, all this talk about Eichel, and he's played unmotivated hockey, in my opinion. Like, the guy has been, for the most part, very uninspired when I've watched him. 2 goals, 14 points in 17 games. It's not because he's got a lack of talent around him. It might be because of Coach Ralph Kruger not knowing how to manage this team. But it's just all bad news in Buffalo. It's becoming so laughably bad that I want it to get worse, because I want things to just blow. I just want things to explode in Buffalo. And I cannot think of a worse run of years than what the Buffalo Sabres have had in this decade. It's been crazy, and I don't know how anyone is still like outwardly a Buffalo fan. This is a disaster. This is a wreck. This is the Edmund Fitzgerald. This is awful. They're cursed. I think it's a curse.
And it's not a good look when you consider like that whole story with the Ralph Kruger. Eichel claimed he got injured. Like Kruger said Eichel got hurt during the warm-up in one game and his injury was not related to skipping the morning skate. And then Eichel said he got hurt in a different game, not during the warm-up. So like you got media reports basically contradicting one another. You got Rasmus Dahlin giving a post-game interview where he's depressed and he's talking about how this team is like a failure and how they need to right the ship. Like everything you're hearing is just so negative, overwhelmingly negative. You got memes of Jack Eichel looking like Marv from Home Alone. It's not cool. So nothing's good, and I agree. I think you're getting your wish. And they're losing 3-2 right now with 10 minutes left against the Rangers. So it's fascinating, and it's a shame. Joseph Camilleri, of course, friend of the show, asked me, if you being the LA Kings fan, would you welcome a Jack Eichel trade? And honestly, I was kind of mixed. Like I said, I would like him because you don't often get a generational star in a trade anymore. Like it just doesn't happen. But I also don't want him because it'll take a pretty penny because, it took quite a bit to get Pierre-Luc Dubois. And in my opinion, Eichel is leaps and bounds ahead of Pierre-Luc Dubois. So what would the asking price be there? Like Byfield, a first in Aiden Dudas?
I think that would be a fair deal. Yeah,
exactly. Like that's fucked.
And watch out for your 2022 first, because that's going to be the killer draft.
Yeah,
I
still want my Shane Wright lottery ball. I can't lose that.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. But from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the Rangers are the front runners. I'm sure you've heard that little report. I don't know how accurate that can be and how much we can lean on that. But what does that deal look like? Like, if you're a Rangers fan, are you dealing laugh for Eichel 1-for-1? Is that something you would entertain?
I don't think they would because it's just too early to make that call. But yeah, they are definitely in the driver's seat for that deal, and it makes sense given of course they need a center. I mean, Ryan Strome is not a top 6 center in my mind. So if you were predicting here, Josh, would you say Jack Eichel will be traded by season's end, or is this just media, just to get some clicks?
Well, I think given how the cap is flat and no teams have any money, it's going to be difficult to form any packages that would take on his salary. In a hypothetical, I think there could be. If I was New York, I would seriously consider taking him for Lafreniere. Like, you get the known commodity for an unknown commodity, especially given the timeline of some of their players. Panarin is still under 30, but he's not going to be, the guy. He's not going to be the guy for another 5 years. I think their timeline is different than Lafreniere's timeline. And same with Capo Caco. Like, where has that guy been? He still has some trade value, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're that's the thing. If you're the Rangers, you kind of can think about it like this. If Laff ends up being on the Eichel territory in terms of his talent, then that's kind of the ceiling that you'd hope he would get to. Now Eichel's already there. It's a guaranteed commodity, and he's a center. So if I'm the Rangers and I want to just put my rebuild on, like, all right, we're good, we're ready to go, it's something you have to consider. Would I make the move as the Rangers GM? No, because I'm a Laugh fan, but I think it's something you have to consider. And talk about a marketable star, like Eichel is as American star as they come in the capital of the United States. It's just it just makes a lot of sense there. But that's the thing I will say. I think it's inevitable now. Eichel will be traded. Like, I don't think this is media hype at all anymore. Like, think about this, boys. We haven't seen Jack Eichel play a playoff game. How sad is that? That is just that's unthinkable. That can't go on. A player of that caliber, It just cannot go on. This will happen, and I think eventually, sometime soon, if this losing streak keeps going, he's going to ask for a trade. And then you ask yourself, when is the last time a captain, and not only that, but a young captain has asked for a trade out of his city? That is just unheard of. I'm not sure it's ever happened. But, no, go on, Josh.
Oh, I was just going to say, they better make a decision quickly because in 2022, his full no trade clause kicks in, and then the decision isn't theirs, it's his, on whether he wants to leave to the team that they have a deal with. So if they want to make a trade that's best for them, it'll have to be during the season or before July 1st of the new year. Otherwise, they're going to be at his will as to where he wants to go.
And you know what's a crazy poetic injustice with this all? I heard someone debating, have you ever heard of a player in this last decade who's come to Buffalo from another team and overachieved? It may have happened to one guy. His name's Jeff Skinner. Happened for 1 year. He got 40 goals, and now he's got the worst contract in the league. Now, if you flip it the other way, have you ever heard of guys leaving Buffalo and overachieving? Yeah, how about Ryan O'Reilly? How about that guy? Like, it's just Buffalo seems to be like, I thought Brandon Montour was a good defenseman. Not in Buffalo. Colin Miller, not in Buffalo. Taylor Hall, not in Buffalo. Like, what is going on with this team? It's crazy what is happening here. It's just, this is a cursed franchise. There's no, like, at least Ottawa is shit, and they have a lot of great, exuberance, youthful exuberance, a lot of talent, just fun to watch, but nothing in Buffalo. A wasteland. God, it's just so sad. I can't handle it.
Kyle, when you said that, the first thing I thought of was the 06-07 Sabres, and I don't know why, but that's immediately where my mind went to, because they were like my favorite team to play with in NHL 7.
Right. Was
Briere,
that like the Briere, Afinogenov? Yeah.
Almonville, yeah, Fanaganov.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Derek Waugh.
Yeah.
Brian Campbell on the back end, just whipping it around.
Oh my, and Ryan Miller back there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure we've all got memories as Toronto GTA kids of going to Buffalo for a game because it's cheap and seeing Buffalo versus God knows who and just having a great time because, they were awesome back then. Those are fun years. But man, oh man, how things have changed. Very sad.
And there was real hope with the new ownership coming in a couple of years ago to turn it around, and just hasn't come to fruition yet.
Yeah, and I mean the Pagulas have put money forward. It's that money's not been the issue. They've done their part money wise. It's just I don't know.
Culture too. I think.
Yeah,
I think we've all seen teams throw money at players, and for the most part, it doesn't work out. But it's about that culture, right? We've seen teams that haven't been spending to the cap that have succeeded. Mm-hmm. You got to ask yourself what's differentiating them,
right,
outside of the spending, right?
Yeah. And the problem is Buffalo's been in the past really quick trigger finger to fire coaches. And while I do think Ralph Kruger should get the cut here, like he should be out of there, they can't necessarily justify like paying all these coaches, beyond their contract. So if they do fire Ralph, you're gonna have to bring in a new guy, keep paying Ralph. I don't know what to do here, but before anything major happens, I think you need to consider the coaching change and whether you can shake that culture up. I don't get it. I don't know. It's very difficult.
They need to bring that Bills Mafia vibes to the team.
Yeah. And I feel bad for guys like Dylan Cousins, who has a really bright future ahead of him. And you just hope that this culture doesn't seep into the veins of such a player, such a happy-go-lucky, positive, hardworking player, We'll see.
Darlene, I mean, he was supposed to be the
Darlene
guy,
is
right?
pissed. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, he hasn't really been that first overall guy yet. You know, he hasn't been on the stage of a Makar or even a Hughes. He hasn't had that, you know, dynamic offense. He's got the numbers are great. Like, the numbers in his first two years are great. They're not great this year, and he's not been that game-breaking talent yet. So that is still another shoot it. I mean, defensemen take a little bit longer, but that's still got to come around.
He has to carry the defensive load too, unlike a Makar in Colorado, because the team around him is so much better, where they play team defense.
Yeah, that's true.
Ristolainen was out for over 3 weeks. Who's their best defensive defenseman, and we'll see if his impact can open it up for Dahlin.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a guy that way. And I know Nick is too, where I hope for chaos in a lot of situations. I'm really curious to see what happens if they keep losing, but it'd be nice for them to get a little bit of attention off them with a few wins, you know. But we'll see.
I find like the decline of Dahlin to be one of the most interesting topics there, because like this guy was praised so much going to that draft, and I never understood what all the hype was about. And then sure enough, you know, rookie season, second year, there'd be segments. I'd watch him make plays and stuff, like a breakout out of his zone or a nifty pass on the power play. And I'd be impressed, but you haven't seen him progress. It's like it's just been stagnant like the past 2 to 3 years. And he almost gets a free pass because there's always all this more attention brewing in Buffalo, like Eichel and stuff. Yeah. And Skinner. And now, like, people remember, oh, yeah, there's a first overall pick on that team who was supposed to be a generational defenseman who's far from that in his, whatever it's in, third, fourth year.
Right.
And I find that equally fascinating. That's one of the points. Like, if I was at Kelly's Corner in Buffalo and I was sitting at the bar, that would be the first question I ask. I wouldn't ask him about Skinner because I know they're just going to shit on him. I wouldn't ask about Eichel because they probably admit he's going to be traded. I'd ask about Dahlin and what they see in him, like a fair evaluation of who that guy is and what his future is with the team. Is he a top 4 defenseman? Is he just that? Is he a top 2 defenseman? Is he a future superstar? I'd like to just get their assessment.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe he's the guy we should be thinking about trading then. Because I think, one, his salary is much more easy to digest for a team, and two, defensemen are late bloomers, so there's probably a team out there that's willing to pay for that number 1 pick price to get a guy who, in their mind, might not have yet reached his full potential. But I agree, he has stagnated, and it is disappointing to see. I still have fond memories of him kind of dipsy doodling at the World Juniors, and everyone was in awe of his skill. Just hasn't translated thus far.
Yeah, and it must be like such a weight on this guy too. I'm sure it is. But hey, that's the nature of being a first overall pick. You get drafted by a shitty team, and you have to be part of that solution. That's just how it goes, you know. So it's not like he's facing anything new. So. Yeah, it is something to monitor.
Buffalo is a really shitty organization. I mean, when you have players who flat out quit and just leave money on the table, like who is the Swedish player who was on the Blues a couple of years ago?
Not Sabotka.
He left like $8 million on the table just to go back home.
I heard about that.
Berglund? Patrick Berglund?
Yeah, I think so. Which is just crazy. I can't believe that's crazy, man. Oh boy. I don't know what it is. I'd love to know.
And yet you're the guy, Kyle, who when I asked, would you rather be drafted to Buffalo or one of the 3 Californian teams, you always answered Buffalo. So
I stand by that. No, I stand by that.
What do you think of that answer, Josh? Is he full of shit?
Sorry, can you say that again? I was looking at Berglund.
Kyle's prospective prospect in the NHL draft. Mm-hmm. He's an okay player. He might get drafted in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm better than that.
And a multitude of teams can pick him, of course, 31 teams. And he has the choice. Let's say he had the choice between Buffalo or one of the 3 California teams, he would prefer to be drafted by Buffalo. Do you think that's nonsense?
I think that's absolute nonsense. The lifestyle alone would be a draw to go to Southern California. Like, Kyle, I know you like chicken wings, but they have Buffalo Wild Wings in all 3 of those cities, so you're not missing too much.
Well, can I justify my position?
I'd like
try.
to. Yeah.
Okay. I'll take you back to 2017 to the Colorado Avalanche, who posted up a 44-point, one of the worst seasons ever. And that's when all the Duchesne drama started. Nathan McKinnon went on to quote, as bad as it was here, wouldn't you love to be the guy that's part of the solution? Like, that's what would be my motivation for all these Buffalo players, is that you are going into such a dire situation. Wouldn't you love to be the hero or part of the solution that brings them out of there? Like, whoever brings this team to the playoffs, whether it's Eichel, Dahlin, whoever, you're gonna get a statue for making the playoffs, for Christ's sakes. If you do any sort of damage there, you're gonna be a national hero in these guys' eyes. Like, that's what you have to look at. If you play well in LA, great. LA's already a storied franchise in the last decade. But Buffalo, hero status immediately. That's my perspective on it.
Interesting. So you like the
That's quite
pressure.
a fantasy.
You want the pressure of you seem too positive. What happens if it doesn't happen? What happens if you don't fix the team like Dahlin?
This sounds like an NHL be a pro. Like, just turn off
Yeah.
your Xbox and go to sleep, Kyle.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have to be confident in yourself, right?
Like, at
That's
least
what you have to be.
if Trevor Zegras slips in Anaheim, no one's going to know anything, and he's still going to get he's going to get a nice cushy contract. He's going to get a nice beach house, and that'll be that. No pressure.
I know, but Nick, we are at the center of the hockey universe. Not only us in the GTA, but us as hockey fans. I couldn't tell you if I've seen a Ryan Getzlaf game in my whole life. If Trevor Zegras ends up being a Hall of Famer, I won't watch him play, and half the people I know won't. That's the difference here. Like, Buffalo, you'll play Toronto all the time. You'll get media, like, you will be a hero. You'll be a star. You will disappear in California. Unless you win a cup or something, you will disappear.
Well, isn't that the goal in Buffalo, is to win a cup? How are you going to turn them around if you don't win?
Well, anywhere
So in
you
this
go,
hypothetical, you'd be winning the cup, right? Wherever you went.
well, I don't know. Those three California teams are pretty shit too, and you have to have the confidence that eventually your team will figure it out.
Really, you wouldn't want to be on Anaheim or LA coming out with all these prospects?
No. Well, that'll make me just, I don't know. No. I'm going to stick with what I said. You'd rather win in Buffalo. That's the end of it. If you assume you're going to win anywhere you go, then you'd rather win in Buffalo.
Wouldn't you rather go to a franchise like Arizona and take them out of the turmoil that they've been facing the past couple of months? Save them from the embarrassment
that's different.
of drafting a predator, and
that's different. I don't like Arizona.
did you guys see that he what's his name? I don't even want to say his name.
Mitch Miller.
He was interviewed and tried to do like a redemption story, and the family was just like we don't fuck with you right now.
That's great. That's great.
As
I
it
love
should
that.
be. Like, it's purely to make amends, not for like what he feels, but because he realizes his career is over.
This guy should never play in the league. Him and that fucking rat D'Angelo should never play in this league. Go to the KHL.
Well, that's the thing, is that there's probably they'll go to Riga, and 10 years later we'll hear a story of them who beat up a woman or something like that.
Yes.
Except this time we'll believe it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They'll be speaking Russian. They will never come back here again.
But I did hear, now that you brought up D'Angelo, or I read that the Rangers are open to letting him play for another organization on loan, which I do think is a classy move by them to, not end his career, but obviously not help it either.
Well, just to add to that, I heard it was on loan to an AHL roster.
That's
That's what I've just seen on this broadcast like 20 minutes ago is like D'Angelo's pleading or something to be loaned to an AHL roster just to play.
Yeah, but not Hartford. He's not welcome.
No. Which I don't think he should be allowed to play anywhere, to be honest. Except for like, the overseas.
Well, and just like that, Buffalo has lost again 3-2 to the Rangers. So there's your update from my game.
Wow.
I've now switched to the Montreal game. And moving on. So those are our three big topics, our three big discussion points. Now we're going to go into a little bit more of a shotgun mode. Little smaller topics here, but worth talking about nonetheless. So just about 10 days ago, the league hosted yet another dose of outdoor games. This time with no fans, no football stadium. Instead, chose a remote location in a place Kyle just learned about 10 days ago. Didn't even know this place existed. Lake Tahoe. I had to teach him about where it was located. And that goes that for you. And anyways, the one little tweet I have here from just to put into perspective how the game went. This was between Colorado and Vegas, the first game of the two. Play began at 3:12 Eastern Time, but mushy ice forced a halt to Saturday's Colorado-Vegas game after the first period. The game didn't resume until 12:02 a.m., and it ended at 1:50 a.m., meaning it took more than 10 hours from puck drop to conclusion. The 8-hour-plus delay led NBC to move the final two periods of the telecast to its NBCSN cable channel rather than preempting Saturday Night Live at 11:30. The effect on the game's TV audience was stark. The first period averaged 1.35 million viewers on broadcast TV for NBC and 1.39 million with streaming. That was a promising start, but the final two periods averaged just 361,000. That means about 1 million viewers tuned out between that 10-hour stretch. So you guys are media junkies. What do you think? What did you think of this? Was this a fair attempt at trying to think of something new? Let's have this in some remote, Alaskan-looking location and have these lads play a game, or were you guys, when you saw things get out of control, were you guys shaking your heads as media people and being, this is going to be a tough blow for NBC?
This is a classic. You can go first, Kyle.
Yeah, I'll make it really quick with 2 points. First point, from a TV perspective, I thought it was a lot better than the football setup. I just thought that the backdrop was just added a really neat element, and just the scenery in general. I thought that was really cool. Second point, what the fuck was the NHL thinking? What were they thinking with this stupid Lake Tahoe? When you said where Lake Tahoe was, the fact that it was so south just blew my mind. Like, why do you need to go there? Like Paul Bissonnette said it perfectly. There's a lot of cold, nice places too. Like, it doesn't have to be in this fucking location where it's like, oh yeah, we've got a few mountains here. There's thousands of places you could have gone. Why did it have to be there where you had such a risk of sun exposure and hotter weather? It just blows me away. And yes, they got bitten by it. Go figure. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? What are you thinking? Ridiculous. Next question.
So, Kyle, you were pretty spot on with your take. I think from a marketing standpoint, this is exactly what the NHL wanted. From a practicality standpoint, it couldn't have gone worse. You had several locations in the COVID-free North Division that they could have chosen to play at. Instead, they decided to bring 4 teams from separate divisions and bring them into this one rink. Taking Boston and was it Washington or Pittsburgh? Who do they play? Sorry,
Philadelphia
out of the proverbial East bubble, brought them over into crossing swords, so to speak, and it was just a disaster. I was one of those viewers who tuned out after the 10-hour delay. I was not going to stay up till 1:30 in the morning to watch the game, although the sound bites afterwards were worth it. Hearing Pietrangelo when McKinnon was coming down the wing was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It made. Go ahead, Kyle.
No. Go on.
No, it made for good TV. Like Kyle and I were at the same location, and it was a fun watch, and it looks great at night. They shouldn't have scheduled these games during the day. Like, just play them at night. Like especially with the weather situation. Like, mistake number 1, of course, was the southern climate. Mistake number 2 was trying to drop the puck at noon. Hottest part of the day. It looks better at night. The lighting just looks amazing on those Nordique sweaters. Like, it was just a much better look at night, and they should have just done that, and that way they could have avoided the whole mess. I mean, it really made no sense. You're going to get more viewership at night. Like, I don't care if you got to compete for Saturday Night Live. Like, make it happen.
Well, so at night you can't see the fact that they're playing on Lake Tahoe, and that was
good. Yeah. Good.
That was a big part of
right.
it.
That's a big one, right? So I guess that's why they do the football ones at night, because you don't really care about the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. I mean,
that they do have a history of successful outdoor games. They played in California twice, I believe, with no issues. The ice is always going to be a problem with outdoor games because there's no temperature regulation. You can only do so much underneath it and in between periods to keep it playable. But I think the NHL got everything they wanted out of this event, the spectacle. They got not only did they get the games, they got extra media attention because of the postponement. People were questioning the decision, and ultimately, I think they went with the any press is good press mentality, and we're happy with it.
I will say my last story on the topic is that Nick and I were in a restaurant in Calabogie, and we had noticed the delay was on, and the first thing we saw was that fucking buffoon trying to kill time, like falling over doing the golf shots. Like, that was so ridiculous. The most cringeworthy thing the NHL has done in the last 100 years, probably 100 years. We didn't hear even any audio. I just simply looked at the screen. I saw some guy trying to like swing his driver and fall over very, very obviously on purpose. And I just shook my head and I went back to my beverage. I just thought that was goofy as frig.
Yeah, it was not a good look. Again, just wasting time. It was just good thing it happened at NBC and not like CBC. Wouldn't have been a good look for our friends up north here. But I care less about their look. But yeah, I mean, just to end this, do you think we see another one of these remote? Is this kind of the norm, or do you think we're going to go back to the football stadium when fans are allowed to congregate next season?
I think we're going to see more outdoor games. I think the NHL really likes the idea of having both, where they get the spectacle, and I think Lake Louise is going to be a real option in the next couple of years, just based on the feedback they received from fans and media. And then stadiums, it's all about the money, right? If you can pack 100,000 people into a game and quadruple your gate, you're going to do it every time.
Yeah, I'm with Josh here. I think a mix of both could work. Perhaps specifically, you could use the States, and in the States, you could use the football formula, get that gate revenue, get those ticket buyers, And then in Canada, where you can really rely on, eyeballs on the screen, maybe you can do that Lake Louise. Maybe you don't need to have, so many people watching. Maybe I think that could be a good formula moving forward.
I can't believe that they didn't do it at Lake Louise to begin with. It was,
I know.
It was the clear choice. It had the temperature. It had the scenery. It had no COVID, which is, I think, still should be a major consideration when they do these type of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. I think,
guys. Yeah, go ahead.
I think maybe the why they didn't go with the Lake Louise and they chose a Tahoe was because let's be honest, they're trying to get the American viewers as much as they can. And I think they can really identify with Tahoe rather than this Canadian wherever it is kind of thing, in their eyes, that is.
For sure. And that's always been Bettman's MO, is to favor American expansion over the Canadian diehard base, because he knows they're not going anywhere. And, he's been successful in some places and he's been not so successful in other places. But in order for the league to survive, they need the U.S. market. I saw a post on Instagram recently about salaries in the NHL 10 years ago. The highest paid player was around $10 million. Highest paid player this year is $15 million. In the NBA, the highest paid player 10 years ago was around $24 million. This year, it's $43 million. So,
oh my God.
The salaries are going up in every league except for the NHL. And it's up to Bettman and the rest of the owners to figure out a way to make that the game more appealing to other people who might not know about the sport and would be interested.
Mm-hmm.
I think from that perspective, growing the game, that's why they do the things in China, and that's why they do the European road trips and stuff like that. Like, it's all about growing the game.
Mm-hmm.
If it was for the players' interest, they would never do it, because it's obviously not in the best interest of the players to be traveling unnecessarily.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I will not comment. I'm just flustered right now. I've lost a shutout with 12 seconds left in the game, so there you have it.
Oh God.
That'll put you down. That's a bad feeling.
That will put you right down.
Yes, sir. Okay, moving on. Question for you, Kyle. Did you watch the Sportsnet Mike Babcock interview last week?
I watched it earlier today. Yes, I did.
Here's the story. Babcock has returned to the spotlight in the past few months after time away. He worked with the University of Vermont men's hockey team. He joined NBC part-time as a studio analyst, and he spoke to the Athletics' Pierre LeBrun about a number of topics. Most recently, he was hired as head coach of the University of Saskatchewan men's hockey team. Last Wednesday, before the Flames played Babcock's last team, the Leafs, Sportsnet aired a sit-down interview conducted with Christine Simpson. While Babcock might have been looking to clear the air, he instead came off as defensive and at times didn't really put the onus on himself for what transpired. Not going to read the quotes. The one that stuck out to me was, quote, "Oh, yes." Or he went after Sportsnet in the interview when asked if he disputes the stories. "Oh, yes, but I also, let's get this clear before you know how you guys can edit this stuff. I've tried my very best to treat people right. I still do. You can't have a family I have and the opportunities I've had without treating people good. Have I crossed the line ever? Absolutely. And saying that when you get into mental health, that's a way different program. No one ever should be in that situation. So when you cross the line, you have to own that." It sure doesn't sound like Babcock is owning it. So that's what I got. I thought this was stupid, and I think he's making we've talked about this with Joe a few weeks ago. Like, he again explained the Marner situation. He came off very defensive. Every time he tries to explain that story, he sounds like a dum-dum because there's no justifying it. There's no any way he articulates it. He ends up sounding like a Muppet every time. and then hearing this stuff about, like, when she asks if you crossed the line, he's like how could, like, I've raised a great family. I'm a family man. Family men don't cross lines. Like, don't bring that shit into this. Like, just because you're a good father, that means you're all of a sudden a good person. Like that, that's your excuse. So I again, it was 5 minutes where I don't think it was a particularly good look for him. And yeah, I just thought I'd open the table here and see if what you guys thought of it.
Do you have? Did you see the thing, Josh?
Yeah, I did. I don't really have an opinion on it. I think he's going to Saskatchewan, which, you know, is the Alabama of Canada. So it says enough about everything.
Come on, man.
Hey, listen, if he wants to marry his cousin, be my guest.
Come on. You're way out. You know how many people from Saskatchewan listen to this show?
Hey, Randy.
You're picking a lot of battles here. That's what you're doing.
Well,
I've got a bit of a contrarian opinion on this one, Nick.
So you thought he played his cards beautifully. It was a full house for Mike Babcock. You're saying?
No, not a full house. Not a full house. But he raised some decent points. Like he said, basically what I got from this is he's a hard-ass coach. I think we can all agree on that. He pushes buttons. He tries to get the most out of guys, and sometimes he crosses the line. He admitted that. But like you've coached probably like 700 players in your career. Of course, 1, 2, maybe 6 of them are going to have a problem with you. And he's mentioned several times that he's coached guys who later hired him. He coached Stevie Yzerman, who later hired him to be coach of Team Canada or whatnot. He coached Brendan Shanahan, who later hired him to be coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, he can't be all that bad. I mean, that's not how he can't be all bad is what I should say. I know there's definitely probably stories where he's definitely been in the wrong. But to put such an absolute on it, I think is a little extreme. Yeah, he came off super defensive. Like it really looked like he was like running away from a taser for the most part. But no, I think he made some decent points. And again, I'll stand by what I said the other week. I think we'll see him in the NHL again in the next 3 years
with Arizona.
Hey, maybe that is, yeah.
Him and Mitch Miller, his new star player.
Okay. You know what? Hey, another thing on that, remember that McKinnon thing I said where why did he come to Toronto? Because he wanted to be part of a solution for a team, a storied team. He wanted that kind of accolade to his name. So I respect that.
Yeah, but the key difference between where he was going and where you wanted to go in Buffalo is it's Buffalo.
I guess so, yeah. Hey, he could be a great coach of Buffalo. That's what he could do.
Where he should have gone originally, right? That was like the other contender.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That would have been great.
Well,
they would have won the lottery.
Yeah. Well, let me. I got a question for you guys. I'm wondering if maybe Babcock is wearing these goat horns, and maybe like a lot of the things that he's pulled, many coaches in the league have pulled as well. Like, are we not going to hear a bunch of stories about John Tortorella, like doing similar kind of antics? Don't you think he's done similar? But yet he's in this limelight of this great coach, and he's gotten so much out of his teams. Like, don't you think he's done some pretty raw shit too?
Haven't we already seen a few coaches get backlash for this? Mark Crawford comes to mind. Wasn't there another coach who was actually an NHL coach who had to step down because of issues?
Bill Peters.
Related?
Well, that was racially driven. That's kind of a different story.
And wasn't Bill Peters also considered?
It's still verbal abuse, and it all falls upon that kind of backlog. But
yeah, you hear the mule. What's his name? Holmgren. Franzen talking about having nightmares when he thinks about Babcock. Like that's a lasting mark that he left, and that definitely crossed the line, not once, not twice, but consistently. And as a coach, you have to recognize your behavior, right? Even if people aren't going to say anything, it's an awkward position when you have that power dynamic, right?
Mm. Well, I'll counter with this. I bet you Jonathan Drouin had nightmares of John Cooper with his time in Tampa Bay. Now let me paint that picture for you. You're a third overall pick. You've got all the confidence in the world. John Cooper invites you into his office in your rookie year, sits you down. Yeah, listen, Jonathan, I just don't think you're that good. And you're not going to get a lot of ice time here. End of meeting. Like, that's a pretty raw fucking thing to do as well. And that was years of burying this guy and nearly ruining his career, to be honest. So, I don't know. There's wrong? Things that... What's that?
Was he wrong? What is Drouin then?
He was wrong. He was absolutely wrong.
I think Drouin was a byproduct of your fabled Moosehead system.
No, God, no.
Was just being carried by McKinnon.
No, that's total baloney. Total baloney. Because Jonathan Drouin did everything in his power to earn more minutes there, and he was super dynamic. And I've got a long history. I paid money to watch his AHL games, Josh. That's how much I followed this story. I paid $6 to watch an AHL game.
So then,
never been done. It's never been done.
So but tell me why he hasn't produced with Montreal.
I'll tell you why. Because they, first of all, Cooper fucked with his confidence. And then when he got to Montreal, Julien stuck him at center, which wasn't his natural position. And then after that, they just kind of played him 15 minutes a night and said, chip in with an assist here and there. Like they've totally shackled his creativity. And I'm really hoping that Dominic Ducharme can really unlock that, because it's such a shame what's happened to his career. And it all stems from Cooper. Like this guy, like Cooper is a nightmare for this player. I'm telling you, like he has considered killing Cooper at least twice in his life, at least.
He reminds me of, you ever watched the movie Goon?
Yep.
He reminds me of the star player who lost his confidence and was afraid to get hit, and he needed that goon to protect him so that he can get the confidence back and feel comfortable on the ice and not worry about his teammates coming to protect him.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, I could see it. But
There's
his development was totally fucked.
The French-Canadian parallels and whatnot, but I think you're just a Drouin stan, to be honest. But I'd love to hear Nick's opinion.
Why is that? Why would I be a Drouin stan?
Because everything you've said to defend him has deflected blame on everyone except for himself. At what point does the leash get tightened and it's not a prospect who has been stunted in his development by some maniacal coach who was out to get him? And does he start to produce the same way that we all expected when he was drafted third overall?
That's the thing. That is the thing. He did exactly what he was billed to do in Tampa Bay. When they finally gave him minutes, he in the 2015-2016 playoff run, when they made it to the conference finals, he was among their top 3 best players as a showcase. He had 14 points in 17 games. He was incredible. And then the next year he had 53 points in 73 games. Trajectory going great. When they finally gave him minutes, and then it all went downhill.
What's the difference between Tampa Bay and Montreal?
Well, Tampa Bay at the time, at least, and still to this day, they let their offensive players be offensive players. Montreal,
Nick, do you want to say it? Is Tampa Bay a better team? Do they have more players that could help insulate a young player, help him develop?
Well, you could say that, but sticking a guy on the fourth line is not the way to do that, which is what happened. That's what happened for most of his time there. Until they wanted to showcase him for the purpose of a trade. And then they finally gave him minutes. He started producing. And then it's a nightmare. It was all a nightmare.
Doesn't he also have attitude issues? Wasn't he originally like pegged as another Josh Ho-Sang?
No, God, no.
Where he couldn't get along with teammates and he had this arrogance about him as the third overall pick coming into a team that was contending, and he thought he could just step in and, pick up right where he left off with the Moosehead. I feel like that story has been lost in a lot of the shuffle.
Well, I think the confidence that he had, the what you call arrogance, was definitely earned. Like this guy was one of the greatest junior players that we've seen in the last decade. There's absolutely there's no denying that. He was a legend, an absolute legend in the queue. Like I think he had a better legacy than Lafreniere did in the queue. Because Josh, look at the 2013-2014 season. No McKinnon, 108 points in 46 games. Playoffs, 41 points, 16 games. 41 points in 16 games, no McKinnon with you.
Hey,
that's unheard of.
Connor Brown led the OHL in scoring too, but you don't see him lighting up the league.
The year in his draft year when McKinnon was with him, you know who won CHL Player of the Year? It wasn't McKinnon. It was Jonathan Drouin, CHL Player of the Year. Not McKinnon. Jonathan Drouin. This guy was big time, man. I'm telling you, this guy was the shit back in the day. And he could have been the shit today, but John Cooper fucking fucked him for it. I'm telling you, this is crazy.
I think again, you've taken things off the rails with this conversation.
You're
right. We started just talking about a coach who was being hard on his players. There's that part of the interview where she asks if he's made good with Franzen. Apparently, he texted him. Franzen R-bombed him. That's all that needs to be said. Okay? If John Cooper texts Jonathan Drouin, I don't think he's getting an R-bomb. I don't think it's that serious. I don't think so. But the point is, it's a different subject matter. And while I think he was defensive, and we can agree on that, and you might think that interview went better for Babs than I think, I still think he's doing a pretty good job of getting his way back. I think the University of Saskatchewan thing is a good call. It shows he's going back to his home roots. He's coaching a good moral cause, and I think slowly but surely he'll find his way behind a bench at some point. Don't know when, but at some point he will. Do you agree with that, Josh? Do you in 5 years, next 5 years, is Mike Babcock behind a bench again?
I could see it. I could see a team being desperate enough to make the move. It wouldn't be without a lot of backlash. And I think it would have to be a perfect situation. It would. I can't even imagine which team would be bold enough to make that move. I'd love to hear if you have any speculation or speculative guesses, but right now, I think it's possible. Do I think it's likely? And could I name a team? No, I couldn't.
I couldn't name a team either, but I would just think it would have to be a veteran team with a core, good established core, can't get over the hump, need to add some kind of a guy who's going to hold people accountable so that the veterans don't slack and hopefully can get put over the hump. I don't see him coming in for a rebuild. I don't think that's who he is. I don't like a Seattle that's not a fit. So I think it would have to be. That's why we heard about him in Washington. He was apparently the runner-up to Laviolette. So that would be my best guess. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on here to a story that got my attention just 2 nights ago. This really got my ears to perk up.
Wow. That's rare.
San Jose versus St. Louis. 7-6 game. But the most memorable moment of a back-and-forth 13-goal game between the two teams might have come when Blues goaltender Jordan Binnington lost his composure after getting pulled midway through the second. Binnington went after 3 Sharks players when he was replaced after allowing his 4th goal on 19 shots. Ville Husso came in and the Blues got the win after scoring 3 times in the first 17 minutes of a back-and-forth final period. While skating off the ice, Binnington shoved Radim Simek by the bench, put his stick in Erik Karlsson's face near center ice, and then got into it with Sharks goalie Devin Dubnyk before finally leaving the ice. I guess he was frustrated, Dubnyk said. I don't know why he's just skating around pretending to punch guys. I just told him to get off the ice and calm down. Binnington's reaction seemed to spark the team. As Coach Craig Murphy said, he's a fiery guy. That's kind of the way he is. We've seen that in the past from him. I don't think a penalty was warranted. He's trying to rally the team. That's what he's trying to do. Husso came on and stopped 13 shots the rest of the way in the second. Blues tied it late. And, went on to win on a Marco Scandella goal. So there you have it. I, of course, was watching this live, and then Josh sent the little... Or he asked what was going on, and I sent a video into the group chat. So, I mean, what? Let me just put it for you this way, Kyle. Let's say, like, hypothetically, me and you are on the same Aurora AA team, like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm the goalie. I'm the backup goalie, but I got the start for this game. And I pull this antic as the coach pulls me in the second period. Are you thinking in your mind, what an idiot? Like she's been shit all game and now he's going out like this? Or would you be there in your skates going, wow, I'm fired up. Let's go fucking rally and win this game. What would you think?
I'd be like, this guy is such a clown. and I'd be fired up that you're getting the hell off the ice. Like, finally, you've already had a shit game. Like, that's already been established. You've shit the bed for us, for the team, for the boys. And now you're pulling this shit? Like, this isn't firing up anybody. The only thing that's people are fired up about is the gate closes and you're gone. Like, this guy is an idiot. What is he thinking?
So that all the teammate support, the coach, that's all just trying to save face?
Oh, it's mumbo jumbo. Absolutely.
Josh?
I blanked out for a second. Can you tell me the question again?
If this, like,
oh, sorry,
when
the Benner stuff. Yes, okay, I remember.
Do you see that as? Do you believe the rhetoric coming out of the team, which is, oh, this guy, yeah, that's just a fiery guy, and he rallied the team, and he's the reason we won 7-6? Or do you see that as just saving face? We have to make this guy look good because he's our starting goalie.
When I first saw the video that you posted in the group chat, I had no context behind it, and I thought it reminded me of a Patrick Waugh moment, his last game in Montreal. I thought
right.
he was losing it because I saw the score and I saw obviously the antics afterwards. It looked and reminded me of 1993 Patrick Waugh, if that's the right year. I don't know. It wasn't born. But now seeing and hearing the context you just put it in, I think he was trying to spark the boys. Like, he didn't come after his team. He went after Sharks players. Clearly he felt that the team in front of him wasn't putting enough effort in, wasn't protecting the puck enough and defending him. So he was going to do it himself. And it worked, right? They won the game. And are they winning tonight, or did they win last night? I don't remember. But.
They won last night, but they gave him some mental health day off, so he was not with the team.
I just I don't know if you can name a more like spoiled brat type of guy, you know? Like, isn't that his character type?
He's not spoiled yet. He's still fighting for a contract. He's on the last year of a deal. He's an impending UFA. He has to have a career year this year.
which is that's crazy.
which is
That's
fascinating
crazy.
when this is going on amid all of that.
Well,
But
Kyle, you had him on your Olympic roster, didn't you? From
I
last
did
episode?
not.
No, was it?
I did not.
I didn't either. I didn't either.
Oh, neither
I-
of you.
Neither
I
of us
had-
did.
Price, Kemper, and Hart.
Right. Okay. Because
A lot of experts did though.
I think I would have had him on my Olympic roster before this incident, and now it's making me question his mental game. I think it was a snap, and I think the team responded well to that, but it's not something you want to see out of your goalie. Goalie's supposed to be composed, right?
Yeah. Nick, who is their backup there?
So it's a rookie by the name of Ville Husso.
Oh,
And
right. Okay.
why? Are you looking on fantasy right now to pick up their back?
No, I'm simply saying, like, maybe I don't even want this guy on the team at all. Like, maybe I let him, maybe I trade him at the trade deadline, you know?
Yeah, it's not an option. It's the reason why I had him as such a highly touted guy on my draft board this year, because it's the first time they don't have a backup, like a Jake Allen. Their backup's literally a guy who's played 3 NHL games so far, and they don't
Right.
really know what they have in. So
Right.
that made me believe, and it's a contract year, so he's going to get
Yeah,
his games.
yeah.
So all of that made me think, okay, he's going to start 40 games, and we'll see what happens. So, yeah, I mean, he's had an okay season, but I thought that was a funny little incident, and you just don't see it often, and I enjoyed seeing it from like an entertainment standpoint, and it is nonsensical to your point, like and to Josh's point, you shouldn't be seeing that from your goalie. Like, it's just not a good look.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked. They got the win, so there you have it. Okay, very quickly. Josh, you said you had a story about this, but I'll just introduce the details. It's a kind of a small deal, and it hasn't really materialized because we haven't even seen the player play yet. But Alex Galchenyuk was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs by the Carolina Hurricanes on last Monday. Carolina received forward Igor Korshkov and defenseman David Warsofsky. He was originally acquired by the Hurricanes along with forward Cedric Paquette in a trade from Ottawa for forward Ryan Zingle. But never played a game for them. So didn't play for Carolina, hasn't played yet for the Leafs. You being a lifelong Habs fan, Kyle, what did you think of this deal?
Well, I see Galchenyuk as this and this only. If you're going to get anything out of him, it's going to be a second power play shooting threat. That's all you're going to get. And honestly, I don't even know if Toronto needs that. I don't understand the deal from Toronto's perspective. I don't know if it's a character you want to bring into your room. I don't know if it's not a piece that you need. And let's be honest, 5-on-5, unless you can mold him into something crazy in the AHL, which is where he is right now, then he's a liability 5-on-5. So I just don't see where this is going. I think maybe he's going to be a trade piece for them. Maybe that's why they acquired him. You know, if he puts up some numbers in the AHL, maybe some team will get desperate. But I don't think he's going to play in a Leafs uniform at all. And this is kind of his last shot, I guess. It's his contract year. He's got $1 million on the books this year, and then he's got nothing. So I don't know. He's just – I never liked him even in Montreal. He's a guy who's prone to mistakes, and he hasn't figured it out. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
What is the story you have, Josh?
So the story is it's the Marner draft. We're watching the ping pong balls bounce around, and I guess it's not the Marner draft; it's the McDavid draft. But Leafs ended up with the 4th pick. I wanted Galchenyuk to fall.
Way.
I wanted Galchenyuk over Marner.
Oh my God.
At the time, we needed
And
the
you're
center.
a London guy.
Yeah, I am.
What?
But
Okay, explain.
the Leafs needed a center at the time. This was a year before we got Austin Matthews with the draft balls. So we were still rocking with Kadri and Bozak as our number 1, number 2 centers. And I thought Galchenyuk, based on what I saw from him in junior was the guy. Luckily, I'm not the GM of the Leafs, and thankfully, the team in front of us, I believe it was it Arizona that took him?
Yeah.
Thankfully, they're another bad franchise, and they took
Dylan Strome.
Am I thinking of the same draft, or am I?
Oh yeah, no, that's all the same. Wait,
did he go 5? Galchenyuk?
Galchenyuk went 3, but it was not in the Marner draft. No, that he got drafted in like 2012. Galchenyuk did.
That I don't have a story, and I just made up a memory in my head.
Maybe you're replacing him with Dylan Strome. Maybe you're thinking because Strome was the center. Yeah.
Well, then I don't have a story, and I think it's interesting that the Leafs decided to trade for him instead of just picking up off waivers.
Seriously,
that's an option. I did read that it was for cap considerations because if you traded for him, he can go straight to the taxi squad, whereas if you claim him off waivers, he still has to clear waivers. And that adds extra cap implications or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see him in the league too much longer.
But I think it's going to be one of the few trades you see Canadian teams make because we're about halfway through the season now. And if you wait 2 weeks, then that's another 8 games lost. You can't really wait too much longer, or you can't really wait too much longer to make a trade or improve your roster. So I think it's good that the Leafs made the trade, and also fortunate that he didn't have to go from Carolina. He never left Canada, so he doesn't have to wait the 2-week quarantine period.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's kind of a double deterrent on trades. One way is the quarantine period, and the other way is you don't want to trade interdivision if you're a Canadian team because then you play the guy, you know? So
Exactly.
Like Canadian teams are just having a hard time making trades here. Much easier for the United States teams because they can trade out of division, less quarantine. So yeah, that's a huge deterrent for most Canadian teams.
Well, even the quarantine from coming to Canada to the U.S. is less too, right?
Yeah.
Laine was playing in games a week before Dubois was.
Yep. Oh, Winnipeg scored.
I just think, it's weird because we'd heard rumors about the Leafs inquiring about a forward, especially after the Simmons injury. They needed like another guy. And to hear this was the guy, it just kind of surprised me. A guy who's like a fringe NHLer, been beat around the bush, best days behind him, and this is the guy. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see if he is the guy. We'll see if he even gets any reps. But they clearly got him for basically a pack of gum, based on what I read out. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Moving on to close the show, the weekly edition of the Laugh Track.
Oh,
all of a sudden, we're getting a little excited here on the show because the Golden Boy now has 4 points in 5 games.
Whoa!
And after his goal tonight, beautiful goal tonight, by the way.
Not really.
Only 3 goals short of Kirill Kaprizov, who is the current Rookie of the Year leader. So, what do you think, Kyle? You feeling optimistic here about little Lafreniere?
Well, I told you the other day over text, like, what impressed me most about all those plays was that he's now skating with the puck, and the skating looks a lot better. Like he's always said throughout the whole year, I feel more comfortable, feel more confident every day, whatever. Now it actually looks like it. Like I never saw him skate like that before. But before he'd get the puck, lock his feet onto the ice, and look for a pass. Now it's like he's trying to take control more often. So I see good things coming, and the goal today just shows you that he's crashing the net too. So he's still got a long way to go, but this is really good positive returns, and hopefully Panarin stays away a little longer because I think this is really helping his game, like having a bit more pressure on him.
Well, and the other one, Capo Caco, don't forget about him.
Yeah.
He's quietly been buried in the COVID protocol list. And that he I think is more of a threat than Panarin as far as like ice time, because they're very similar. Like wingers who should be in the top 6 haven't really cracked it yet, fighting for ice time. Big rivals. You could tell they don't like each other.
Yeah.
And the longer Capo stays away, that's really helped Laugh. It's now been like 4 straight games on that top line with Buchnevich and Zibanejad. So it's a good sign. And yeah, the skating is great. We're seeing him really. They asked him in that interview today, what have been the 2 things you've worked on the most, or the 2 big differences? And he said skating and playmaking. I'm holding the puck longer. I'm more comfortable on making plays. Mm-hmm. So it all sounded to make sense. Again, in the interview, very reserved. The same Laugh we know, very calm and reserved on camera. But then behind the scenes, he's been hooting and hollering apparently. So clearly enjoying himself.
Hooting and hollering.
That and he's got big balls. Ballsy kid.
So stupid.
So yeah.
Kid's ballsy, man. Why do you say that? It's just weird. It's an overtime goal. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that'll be seeped in my mind for a while. But yeah, so all in all, very optimistic. And we will see. Hopefully it continues here. I'm very excited.
If this does continue, I am going to offer an apology on the show based on what I've said in the past couple of weeks.
Nice.
Big apology coming. I hope I have to apologize. Not
Josh,
yet.
Yeah. Have you followed this play? I know not nearly as close as the 2 of us to be burying your lives with this guy, but have you followed him at all?
Of course. I mean,
okay.
I genuinely want him to succeed. I do. I root for every Canadian player, especially one of his ilk. I think I agree that Panarin being away has elevated his game because now he has more offensive responsibilities on his shoulders, which I think he thrives in. And we'll see. Maybe it'll come out in a couple of years that Lafreniere was one that planted the story and he was the mastermind behind all of this to get
sneaky son
Panarin
of a bitch
out of his way and so he can play top line minutes, top line power play.
You know what? Me and Josh used to trade highlights actually of him back when we were in school. Like we used to talk about him quite a lot.
Nice. Well, as long as you're an advocate of him and you're rooting for him,
yes,
then you're a friend in my books. Otherwise, I don't want to talk to you. So yeah,
I wish him all the best individual success. I hope his team loses every night, though.
Right? Yeah, that's the same. That's what I've been thinking too. Not really fond of the coach or the team, but I do like the player.
Oh,
yeah. And very finally, as we're talking about rookies, Kyle, I know we were just talking about Anaheim and the lack of time you spend tracking them, but do you have any thoughts on your favorite prospect, Trevor Zegras, in his first
least
4
favorite
games?
Prospect.
Okay.
My least favorite. Yeah,
so
I've only seen the highlights.
The anti-laugh.
Really.
He's the anti-laugh.
He's the anti-laugh. Yeah, just an awful guy.
Okay.
No, I saw the attempted Michigan for his first goal. I think that's a little bit suspect to me. For him to choose not to make a play, but to try to make your first. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being old-fashioned there. But I don't know. He's going to have a great, great career. I just don't like him. So that's all I'm going to say. Hey, I did a smooth move in picking him up as a not available, and then I decided to drop him because I didn't want to have him on my roster.
I think I was his biggest opponent coming out of World Juniors. I believe I said that his career would peak in the World Juniors, and I think I'm ready to eat those words. I saw some of the highlights that you were talking about, and the gumption it takes to try Michigan, even though it was unsuccessful, it still shows that he has that swagger to him. And I think a place like Anaheim, where the media won't be as intense on him, will really allow his personality to kind of flourish, and he won't feel like he has to get in line, so to speak, to appease the fan base and the media who will be looking at him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be interested to see what he does in the next couple of years. He's exciting to watch, and I was 50% right. I said Cole Caulfield will have his career moment in the World Juniors, and winning gold definitely will do that for him. But Zegras, I see having a productive NHL career.
Mm.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I with you, Kyle, is not tuned in to see him actually play a whole game. But he is playing St. Louis tomorrow in what I expect will be the Binnington return game. So I will probably have my attention there, and I should have a full report on young Trevor Zegras tomorrow.
Good.
But yeah, and one more rookie. Just got to shout him out. I shouted him out earlier, but I picked him up, so I hadn't been following him. But since I picked him up, I've had incentive to see a little bit of him. I watched his game last night. And again, he's technically not a rookie. We've talked about this, but Kirill Kaprizov is a special player. Like, I don't know if you saw. Like,
Get real.
Did you, Kyle? Did you see that the highlight of his edge work? It was on the rim one more, and the Colorado commentators were just jizzing on air,
I was watching
his
the
edge
game.
work. It's like the way they were talking about him was like they were talking about Makar. Like the way they described his skating, it was like they were describing Makar. And like I saw the clip, and I'm like, the way he was able to move without taking any strides, just using his edges, was like that just got my attention. Like, I don't care about goals, I don't care about assists. I just wanted, just seeing that, I was like, you immediately have my attention, my friend. And then I picked him up, and he's been producing great. He's got 17 points in 19 games, which leads all rookies by, he's clear of all rookies by at least 5 points. So, any observations on this young kid?
I regret dropping him. I
You dropped him?
I drafted him.
He drafted him. Josh drafted him, and it was one of the best picks of the draft.
And
What happened?
well, he doesn't fit my team's makeup. He does get the points, but he's only averaging like a shot and a half.
Not a lot of shots. It's been getting better though.
Yeah,
lately.
and with a team makeup that I have, shots are a premium, and if you're not producing, you get replaced. And because I can't trade with anyone, no one wants a Kevin Hayes, but I should have kept him because 17 points is enough for trade fodder.
Yeah.
Right. Oh no, you're right. No, I think someone would have made a deal. Haute Couturier would have made a deal for him for sure. He's a big Minnesota guy.
This is the inside information I need before the season starts.
And then they went on like protocol. Like they had like a full week where they didn't play. So like that's tough to hold on to guys then. And then Michael picked him up and then dropped him out of nowhere. He dropped him. We were at the cottage, Kyle. He dropped him because he wanted to beat me that week. It was the Sunday, and he wanted to beat me, so he dropped him and Jack Hughes.
Yeah, who have both been very rosterable players since then. Very rosterable.
He wanted to kick dirt on me in our matchup. So there you have it.
Have you guys given any thought to the possibility that not every team is going to play 56 games and what the fantasy implications are for that?
Yeah,
we talked about it a bit on last show and how they're gonna because I even read something today about how they're scheduling games in the second week of May to have some of these games, and our fantasy season only goes until the first week of May. So you're going to be losing games. And if I'm not mistaken, it's mostly players in the Central Division. They're scheduling Central Division games in that second week of May, which will basically be useless for fantasy purposes.
Is there no way for us to extend the season
Uh,
to capture that, or is
I can look into it. The most I was able to do was I was able to put the trade deadline like very late, like right before the playoffs, like a week before the playoffs.
right?
But as far as actually changing the scheduling, I can look into that. But I don't even think that's again, the fact it's only one division that's they're doing that would make me feel like that wouldn't even be a solution, you know?
One more topic on kind of rookie type players. There's 4 members of the Beatles, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, there have been more than 4, but
right,
the
4
band
main
is made
guys.
up of 4 people.
Okay. So if the NHL were to have a Beatles group, it would undoubtedly feature Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, perhaps Brad Marchand, and then a 4th member. Does anyone know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, what Nova Scotia guy do you want to add in there?
Drake Batherson is the 4th member of the NHL's Beatles.
The Ringo.
The Ringo. He's the Ringo Star. He is part of that legendary summer training group. He's been there since he was drafted. He's right tight with those guys. And now he's finally putting up the points to prove it. He just put up Ottawa Senators' longest goal streak in franchise history. And I don't know how many Sens games you guys watch, but this guy absolutely passes the eye test as well. Like, this isn't just some fluke. If you were to tell me Kaprizov or Batherson, I'd say they both look equally impressive in terms of the eye test. Like, this guy is legit. And I think the Sens with him and Stützle have a cool future going forward.
How's his edge work?
Probably not as his strength, although his shot is oddly reminiscent of like a Matthews shot.
Whoa.
I don't want
That's
to
a
pump
stretch.
anybody. I don't want to pump.
I think you're happy Joe's not on this show.
No, I'm saying in terms of if you were to just look at it in a vacuum, like the style, the form in which he shoots, it looks the same. You know, like it's not the same blistering quickness, but it looks the same. It's that pull and snap drag to the feet. It's a good looking player, man. Like, and he's got a reach to him. Like, he's a cool looking player. It's very fun to watch.
Interesting. I'll have to. I know, like, he was in the AHL. He was like buried in the AHL Belleville for a while. So I guess all that cultivation, all those reps, they're paying dividends now, right?
And he lit it up in the AHL, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, it's case in point why you don't rush these prospects. You know.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately, far too many teams aren't following that same rationale.
No, they're not.
Okay.
The next Matthews.
All right, you heard it here first. We will see what the Joe from the bridge will say about this. Which, by the way, he made me Josh. He made me $50. I voted on. I bet on Vancouver the same night he bet on Vancouver, and I put $50 on the game. I got 100. So yeah, there you have it.
Yeah, I rode him. I rode his picks pretty hard until
things went off the
until the debacle with Montreal.
Right.
The collapse.
Yeah.
No one's perfect, I guess.
Yeah, it's rough.
Okay. Well,
thanks, fellas, for having me on.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure, and hopefully we can do it again sometime soon. Then I can actually flex on you guys with my fantasy team being not in first, but definitely solid playoff contention, because winning 5-4 every week is literally my goal.
Oh, gosh. You should aspire higher, my friend.
6-4, actually.
There you go.
Well, we'll see when that is, because I just looked at it today, and apparently like there's only 7 weeks left. So just like that, like it's been an odd year, but time is running thin. So yeah, we'll see where we are next time we talk. But with that said, we wish everyone well. We hope you enjoyed the show yet again. We will see what happens the next few weeks with trade talk increasing. So that would be my prediction. We'll probably have a few more trades if everyone wants to get some in before that, just to avoid that whole 2-week quarantine baloney. But yeah, so we hope you guys enjoyed, and we look forward to chatting with everybody next time. So until then, we wish you the best, and Rink Moose is signing off.